So in either case, we're going to have a debt problem. And the question is, how quickly and does it evolve in the way that I described, debt service payments or rollover?
Ray Dalio sees a big debt problem looming. In any scenario, the United States is going to have a problem with its debt. And Ray Dalio has recently been back in the press sharing his perspectives on the enormous United States debt crisis and the impending recession in 2023. And, however, the news was not quite as encouraging as what we had all been holding out hope for all along. The United States currently owes a total of $32 trillion, but officials have decided to postpone the implementation of a debt ceiling until 2025. The longer the government continues to run a deficit, the closer they go to a full-blown debt catastrophe. Welcome back to the Financial Fortune YouTube channel, where we bring you the latest insights and analysis on the intricate world of economics. In today's video, we delve into the captivating perspective of renowned investor and economist Ray Dalio as he describes the development of the U.S. economic crisis. Prepare to gain a deep understanding of the factors that have contributed to the current state of the economy as we uncover Dalio's unique insights and predictions. Get ready to embark on a journey through the intricacies of economic turmoil and discover the underlying causes behind the crisis that continues to shape our financial landscape. The complications associated with the bill to raise the debt limit. You can't spend more money than you have without going into debt, and if you have debt, you have to pay it back. You can't spend more than you have without going into debt. Your ability to spend money is being cut into by the payments toward your debt, which indicates that someone is interested in purchasing all of your debt. In this video, Ray explains the problem with servicing debt. Ray says that if you take on more debt, you will eventually be required to pay back a greater amount of that loan at some time in the future. If you take on debt and are unable to increase your income sufficiently to at least pay the cost of the loan, then you will find yourself in a worse condition than you were in before you took on the debt. Ray Dalio raises doubts about the United States' capacity to accelerate the growth of their economy at a rate that would make the cost of servicing their debt viable at the rates of interest that are currently in effect. The problem with supply and demand in regards to Treasury bills. Ray Dalio noted that a full-blown debt crisis in the United States might be triggered by the battle of debt service as well as the issue of the supply and demand balance.
I think it's important that people understand you've been looking at the world and a lot of these issues that investors grapple with every day through a framework where there are three main, in particular, pieces of the puzzle, right, that are changing and that are happening and that are informing your view of what's going on right now. Can you just tell us how you're relating to all this?
Well, yeah, these three forces are the biggest in our lifetime. Never magnitudes existed in our lifetime like they do now. You just touched on one. The largest amount of debt offerings and monetization of debt. What is money worth? What is the supply demand? We'll talk about that in a second. The second is the internal political conflict, populism of the left and the right at war with each other, and neither side is going to accept losing. That kind of situation that has implications. They're economic, taxes, all of that, but they go beyond that. And then number three is the great power conflict. In other words, a rise of a great power like China that's comparable to the United States in that conflict. Those three things coming together, each one of them is in greater degrees than has existed in our lifetime before. But if you go back in history, major times, and all three of them coming together have come together repeatedly, like in the 1930 to 45 period and other periods like that. So those three factors made me study the last 500 years of history to watch the dynamic of the rise and decline of reserve currencies, debt, and also of empires.
So if you bring it to today's issues, we passed a debt ceiling deal. There was a big sigh of relief on Wall Street about that, and we're going to get a lot of Treasury issuance. There's some concerns about liquidity issues and whether that's going to come out of bank reserves, but you're thinking much bigger about what we're facing as a country in debt, right?
Let's look at the mechanics of it a little bit. When the economics of a country are no different than the economics of an individual or a company, in that you can't spend more than you earn. Can't spend more than you earn without getting into debt. And if you have debt, you have to pay back the debt. The only difference is you can print the money. That's it.
Which we do.
Which we do. And so the question is, what ends that, or is there no end to that?
Is there a day of reckoning?
Okay, there are two things that end this. First, that the debt service payments to those who are holding the debt, who need it for reward, they want to get paid back, plus an interest rate. So you have to have those debt service payments. Those debt service payments increasingly encroach on your spending. In other words, either this thing compounds, and that means that somebody's wanting to buy all that debt, but you have to pay back in one way or another, and when that happens, it encroaches on other spending. So that's debt service is one. The other big one is the supply-demand balance issue. In other words, when it happens that people don't want to buy enough debt that needs to be sold, you have the bigger crisis, a debt rollover question. And so let's say, as we're now going to issue another huge amount of debt, and the owners of that debt, there's a lot of owners of that debt who own too much of it. In fact, the main problem that's existing today, that is with banks and with other governments and others, is they own too many treasuries that are losing money. Okay, so the Silicon Valley Bank losses and so on, and the banking system's losses are largely due, including the central bank's losses, the Federal Reserve's losses, are largely due to holding bonds that are gone down in value, therefore lost money, and funding it with an interest rate that's too high. So that dynamic is very, very risky. Over the next couple of years, we're going to see that side supply-demand dynamic. And even if that's not a problem, you have the debt encroaching on the debt service. So it's unsustainable. And the question is, when? It's made more unsustainable by certain things in geopolitics internationally. For example,
China doesn't want to hold as much of our debt, maybe.
That's one.
Yeah.
Other countries, too, are increasingly feeling worried about sanctions. In other words, could they be sanctioned? These types of things can affect the demand for the bonds. If you get them to sell the bonds, then it's a real problem. So, because that means either interest rates go up a lot or central banks have to come in and print a lot. And that's the thing that we have to be wary of. So in either case, we're going to have a debt problem. And the question is, how quickly and does it evolve in the way that I've described? Debt service payments or rollover.
As we conclude this enlightening video, we are left with a clearer understanding of the development of the U.S. economic crisis through the lens of Ray Dalio's expertise. It is evident that a combination of complex factors, such as debt imbalances, wealth inequality, and policy decisions, have contributed to the challenges we face today. What lies ahead for the U.S. economy? How can individuals and policymakers navigate the crisis and pave the way for a sustainable recovery? These questions require further exploration and discussion. Stay tuned to the Financial Fortune channel for more valuable insights and expert perspectives on the evolving economic landscape. Remember, staying informed and adapting to changing circumstances is essential for financial resilience. Until next time, may your financial decisions be guided by wisdom and foresight.